Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty. That is Denny Carter. It is Tuesday afternoon. We have two Monday Night Football games to break down, including one of the worst injuries we're going to have all year. Nick Chubb done for the year with multiple torn knee ligaments. We will discuss the fallout from that, even though it looks like it's going to be pretty simple. It looks like it's going to be Jerome Ford. It's maybe the killer app off waivers this season. We'll talk about what is going on with the Browns passing attack. George Pickens is maybe getting into the wide receiver 2 mix with Deontay Johnson on injured reserve with his hamstring injury. If there's any hope for the Steelers rushing attack, and then maybe we'll talk about Saints Panthers. That's hard to think of a worse game than Saints Panthers, which doesn't profile that way necessarily on paper. But I'm a volume tweeter during live sporting events, and I was watching Saints Panthers. I'm like, I have nothing to say about this game.
What could you say except for when they started using Taysom?
Yeah, that did bring out the inner tweet beast.
But I mean, I do think any Panthers game this year is going to be unwatchable.
You know the meme. My T-shirt is answering a lot of questions, or is raising a lot of questions already answered by my shirt.
Yeah,
we got one of those from Frank Reich when he said he wasn't going to give up play calling. I'm like, man, it's been 2 games. Is anyone even asking that yet? And seems like that he's feeling on the hot seat about his play calling already.
It's pretty bleak. He should maintain play calling, by the way. But, oh boy, Bryce Young is going through it at the moment.
Yeah, Bryce Young looking a little tiny out on the old NFL field, which Denny could not stop talking about. He's the shortest.
He's too short, too small.
Denny, I'm sure we have a lot of short listeners. Neither one of us are more than average height. I'm just surprised how fixated you are on this all the time.
That's not true. You're 6 foot. So.
Stop it.
I mean, come on.
I project largeness is what I'll say. You know who doesn't project anything, by the way, except for pain and misery, is those Chargers. Just wondering if you had anything to shovel some dirt on the Chargers before we start the show proper.
I do, yeah.
How is every Chargers game the exact same as the old tweet goes? And how is every Chargers season the exact same? We hyped them all summer. I was like, surely. I mean, this time, come on, man. It has to be different.
Has to count.
I
mean, you raised, I think, an important question in your piece that's on the site right now. What is it called? Sunday
Aftermath. We can never remember the name of each other's columns. Sunday it's fine. It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
The important thing is that I read it, and I will say that the question, and it's been ringing in my head since I read it. Did the Chargers build their stadium? Did the Chargers build their stadium over a Chargers burial ground? And look, burial grounds were huge in the 80s. Everybody was building stuff on burial grounds. I think the Chargers need to look into this because there is no other explanation, I should say earthly explanation, for why every single game is like this. Why can they not just be normal?
It really makes absolutely no sense. And it transcended Phillip Rivers. It transcended Norv Turner. Those were two the big factors. This is probably Norv. All right. Norv's gone. This is probably Phillip Rivers. Now they have the straight and narrow Justin Herbert, and it's still him. Brandon Staley is supposed to be the analytics king. It's coming apart at the seams. Oh my gosh. Staley is coming apart at the seams.
He's punting on 4th and inches from the opponent's territory. What in the world is going on? I joked about Staley having the analytics beat out of him, but I mean, truly, all of the analytics has been beat out of him because that's a Mike Vrabel call there.
He's coming unglued. He already has a full beard. It's week 2, man. You're not a beard guy for one thing, Brandon Staley, and it's week 2. You shouldn't already have a full beard. He hasn't spent a night not on a sofa since probably June 3rd. He's just so racked with stress.
I mean, I get that head coaches in the NFL have to pretend like they sleep at the office and their job requires 24 hours a day. It doesn't, obviously.
It really doesn't. Have you ever just considered winning football games?
Yeah, I mean, come on. You could definitely work 8 hours and go play golf. I promise you could do that. Mike McDaniel said he doesn't shower for 4 days. Come on. You don't need to do that. You work 8 hours, go home, have a nice dinner and a beer, and go to bed.
Just one thing with the Chargers real quick. So much hype for Kellen Moore. He's going to, attack the defense's weaknesses. He's going to have game plans or team-specific game plans, which, we normally like. Chargers go super run-heavy in week 1 and lose. Super pass-heavy in week 2 and lose. Maybe just do what you're good at. I don't even know what you're good at necessarily. You're kind of good at everything. But this is just a gratuitous pot shot here. I think Kellen Moore's probably still going to be good for the Chargers.
Well, yeah, look, the Chargers are like a pop star who wants to be, sort of good at everything. So the pop star does a little music, does a little acting, has a clothing line,
put out a samba album. Has from Maine,
right? Has a cologne line, and it's all very mediocre. And they don't do anything well. That's the Chargers right now.
That's the Chargers. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say about the Los Angeles Chargers as the 2023 season rolls on. But the Monday night doubleheader, we'll start with game 2 of said doubleheader. The Steelers outlasting the Browns. This is a true outlasting game where neither team was good. 2 defensive touchdowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe it was the first time they had done that since 2010. Now, they really needed them because they did absolutely nothing on offense, but we have to start with Nick Chubb, who was the one player performing competently. And then just the one guy that just everyone agrees on in this game, both from like wanting to root for him, like from a greatness perspective, because you're witnessing greatness when you witness Nick Chubb. I believe in the Super Bowl era, ESPN had a stat last night that he has the 3rd highest yards per carry behind Jamal Charles and Bo Jackson. And just a superstar, a fantasy superstar. But one of those injuries where the second you saw it happen, you knew his season was over.
Yeah.
They had only one plan B, a very, very untested plan B, second-year pro Jerome Ford, who had barely touched the ball as a rookie. He came in and immediately basically scored a 70-yard touchdown, but just totally ran out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
By the time people are listening to this, they've probably already done their waivers, but Jerome Ford is kind of looking as close to like an RB2, maybe RB1 plug and play as you'll find on the waiver wire this year. And he's going to be a not in my league superstar. I already got that. I tweeted about it. And he's like available in like 89% of Yahoo leagues, but every person from the 11% was owned in my league.
Right. He was taken in the 4th round.
Yeah.
My league.
Did you ever consider that he's been rostered in my league since the day he was drafted? But I have him in a league, by the way, or against Jeff Ratcliffe, industry friend Jeff Ratcliffe. I lost J.K. Dobbins, then I lost Austin Eckler down so ferociously bad. I had to start Jerome Ford, and then he flipped the matchup. So,
man.
With the caveat that he's a not in my league superstar, Jerome Ford is widely available and basically hard to poke a hole in his case, is it not?
It is. I mean, if you're like me and you did the 0 RB thing, you got to go in on Jerome Ford. First of all, you probably have it. Not probably. You might have Jerome Ford already. So if that's the case, you're good. You're set. If not, then you got to get crazy on waiver on your free agent bidding. Like, don't get conservative. Don't outthink yourself. Don't wonder, oh, will this person in my league do this or that? Don't examine every roster. Just get crazy with Jerome Ford and go in and get him, because really he projects to be an 18 to 20 touch guy going forward in this offense.
It could be even more than that, and just a very versatile guy, because they kind of wanted him to be a pass catcher. He was a workhorse his final season in college at the University of Cincinnati. He might have been a workhorse before that. I just saw someone tweet his final year college line at the University of Cincinnati, where he was kind of like Duke Johnson, where he got funneled into like a pass catching role early in his career, even though he hasn't really even done that role yet, but was a 3-down guy in college. And they don't have a plan B. They're going to sign somebody. They're going to promote somebody, but it doesn't seem like anyone, including the Browns, has interest in bringing back Kareem Hunt. I mean, Leonard Fournette at this point, I mean, not trying to be funny. I mean, who knows what kind of shape Leonard Fournette is in? There's probably a reason he hasn't been getting calls, probably a reason he hasn't signed that. Not that was unfair, but just there's no one out there that's just like, all right, they're going to obviously sign this guy and he's going to stabilize their backfield.
Yeah,
and
no.
Jerome, and I'm just going through the teams. So you try to look for like really clean situations where like if a starter gets injured, the backup is just going to go nuts. And it doesn't really exist. The Bills, that wouldn't happen. The Patriots, that wouldn't happen. Didn't happen with the Ravens. It would happen with the Steelers, but Jalen Warren is already widely rostered.
Yeah.
It would happen with the Titans, but Tajay Spears is already pretty widely rostered. Maybe Jahmyr White with the Raiders.
Maybe.
There's just not many. There's not even many opportunities for a guy to come in and inherit the kind of workload Jerome Ford is going to inherit for a guy that was lightly rostered. So Jerome Ford, just pull out all the stops to add Jerome Ford, I would say. I would say start at 70% and go.
Yes. And also, for those who are, feel really good at running back, who have like 2, possibly 3 running backs who you can play every week, I don't think there's any reason to go all in on Jerome Ford when you can save it for maybe, a wide receiver or somebody else who pops up later in the season. Remember, we're heading into week 3. It's
receivers
still,
don't pop up that often, though. I'm a big believer, and you should spend most of your fab early in the year, mostly on the only time receivers emerge really is early in the year. Denny Carter.
I guess if you want to get galaxy brained, you could, and we do like to do that. You could get Ford and then trade them. I don't know, like maybe, but that's
create a lot of extra work for yourself.
That stuff doesn't work. Like this whole idea that I'm going to get all the good players and trade them. That when does that work? No one wants to trade.
The teams that draft that way always start the season 0-4. Like I could have sworn someone was going to trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Oh, I have 4 quarterback ones. So
I took Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts. The phone, though, is not ringing. Maybe my spam blocker is too good and the calls aren't coming through.
Right. I've called Comcast and they say that my phone should be working fine.
I don't think we're in the mobile business, Denny.
I mean, my home phone, which I use.
Do you have a Comcast? Comcast has phones?
Yeah.
Really?
Do they?
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't know. It seems like
we should look into that, I think.
We should look into the Scheinhart Wig Company still makes toasters.
Hey, but home phones are coming back.
They actually should. I miss the Zoomers will not know how clear a landline sounded.
Oh, so clear.
You pull up a landline, it was like the person's like sitting right by you.
That's right. Yeah.
Totally
now my iPhone is 14 years old, so it sounds like I'm communicating with someone in the jungles of Vietnam. But the modern iPhones are pretty good.
Not on my phone. But Keontae Ingram I like is a guy who could end up being worth a lot on waivers.
Yeah,
he's in such a bad offense, but there's just not many clean cut situations like Jerome Ford out there. So we like Jerome Ford as the 1-for-1 replacement for Nick Chubb. Do we like anything else about this Cleveland Browns offense, which was absolutely horrific in Pittsburgh? Yeah. A pick 6, a fumble 6 from Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper playing at far less than 100%, did have a good game, but Deshaun Watson has done nothing for Donovan Peoples-Jones through 2 games. He's done nothing for David Njoku through 2 games. He's not sparking anybody. This issues look very, very serious. It again looks like a square peg in a round hole. We thought that Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski would get this figured out over the offseason. 2 fairly good divisional defenses so far. I mean, there will be easier matchups, but man, it is hard to have any optimism about the Browns offense right now.
It is. I will say though, Amari Cooper has, all the signals of kind of a runaway wide receiver 1 in this offense. He leads the team in first read targets. In fact, only 9 receivers in the whole league have more first read targets than Amari Cooper through 2 weeks. He leads the team in air yard share and target share. It all lines up to like he's the only really reliable game in town as long as he's healthy. I just really quick wanted to mention in looking through the Cleveland receiving stats, David Bell has done a lot with a little. Really good targets per route run, leads the team in that category. If he can get a little more run, I think he might be interesting, but he would have to really work his way up the depth chart, and I don't know if that's in the cards.
Really important week for the Browns. The Titans they're never a defense you want to face. I don't want to face Mike Vrabel. They erase the run, but they bleed against the pass. They did last year. They have through 2 games this year. Both Derek Carr and Justin Herbert really stuffed the stat sheet against the Titans. The Browns have to show something against the Titans this Sunday, because then it's the Ravens, then it's the 49ers before it finally eases up, and the Colts and Seahawks and Cardinals. So they really need to show something against the Titans this week, or it might be time for like full-blown panic about the Browns passing attack.
One thing they should do is talk to Deshaun Watson about not grabbing defenders' face masks and dragging them to the ground. That seems
What was going on with him Monday night? Because he threw like every time there was a sideline ball, it was 8 yards out of bounds, and like a ball guy was catching it, and like totally like wasn't expecting it. He like knocked over a ball guy. Like, why was every pass 8 to 10 yards out of bounds?
But also, like, does he know that you can't just grab someone's face mask and then yank them to the ground and then throw
like
the
he
ball?
Didn't know that.
I think that I think that
he thought it was like a stiff arm loophole.
I think that it was his strategy. Like, oh, I can now. What I'll do is grab this guy's face mask, throw him to the turf, and then set up and throw the ball. That's allowed, right? And no, it's not.
It was a wild scene. Opposite of a wild scene was the Steelers offense, where Denny, I tweeted something to this effect recently too. Sure looked good against that 4th string Falcons defense in the preseason. And Mike Tomlin every day is tweeting free the Eagles' second team defense. I can't remember who they faced in the summer, but it looked really good against backups, where he posted literally a perfect passer rating. Kenny Pickett, nothing but the sort through 2 games. He's only had Deontay Johnson for 1 half. He's not going to have Deontay Johnson for at least 3 more games. That's very bad. But it's the NFL. Injuries are going to happen. He did kind of make George Pickens happen in week 2. Allen Robinson predictably totally vanished after his week 1. Pat Freiermuth concerningly remained invisible. Did we see enough? I think it was George Pickens' biggest compiling game so far, at least from a yardage perspective as a pro. What did we see? Did we like what we see from George Pickens? Can we get him into the top 24?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was way off here. I don't know. I kind of had some hope that Allen Robinson would be a PPR scammy type play, but no, 11.5% target share against the Browns. Yeah, Pickens dominated. I mean, you know, he has a lot of dog, and so he is an alpha in that regard. 30% target share against the Browns, 66% air yard share last night. He was targeted on 32% of his routes, which is very strong. I mean, it's like exactly what you want to see. I guess as long as Deontay Johnson is out, George Pickens has this role and can be, I think, started confidently as top 18, top 20 receiver. Is that too much?
That is a little too much. I would say top 30 for sure, meaning at least mid-range wide receiver 3. My initial week 3 rankings, I did sneak him into the top 24. I sort of think as I dig more into the data and just the box scores that might end up in matchups, might seem a little too high. So the one hole you can poke in his box score from Monday night, 71 of his 127 yards came on 1 catch. But that's his skill set. Big plays are part of the package with George Pickens, so you can't hold like his primary skill against him. And then, like you said, the target share and the air yard share is what really popped and can give you confidence about his usage. And someone we were ranking outside the top 30 coming into this week, at least I was, inside the top 30 for sure. You could argue inside the top 24, and you can maybe even this time next week argue inside the top 18, just depending on how things go.
Yeah, so, I think A-Rob can be safely dropped.
A-Rob can be, yeah. I mean, A-Rob should have never been added. I don't think we ever advocated that on this website.
No, I don't think so. But Calvin Austin's interesting. I will say, if we could get some more playing time for this incredibly electric playmaker, I think Calvin Austin could be interesting as a distant number 2 receiver behind Pickens.
And he kind of seems like he likes to go sideways, which Matt Canada absolutely loves. Calvin Austin was going sideways. He was going sideways a lot in week 1, so he's a fit for the offense. Any hope for the Steelers rushing attack? Second straight dud for Najee Harris. Second straight game where I believe Jalen Warren caught at least 4 or 5 passes. The warning lights are not stopping blinking for Najee Harris.
Look, our industry friend Davis Maddock asked the question, and I thought it was a good question, and it made me think, how many touches would Najee Harris need to score 10 fantasy points?
Oh, come on.
And it could be 12, 15, like including goal line work. I'm sorry, like it's just obviously not going to happen. The only way that this Pittsburgh rushing attack, if you want to call it that, can get better is if Jalen Warren gets more run like that, and that's it. Also, if they completely abandon the run would be another thing they could do. And then as I say that, I'm thinking of how bad Kenny Pickett has been. So I don't know. I don't really know what the answer is for improving the run game, except for maybe replacing it with a bunch of short passes, specifically to Jaylen Warren.
Very hard to do without Deontay Johnson, but short passes, Jaylen Warren, maybe some of Calvin Austin certainly seems like that's going to be the plan. And our plan is to take a very quick break. We will be back after this. It's an old-time AFC rivalry renewed on Sunday night as TJ Watt and the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers traveled to the desert to face Devontae Adams and the Raiders in Las Vegas. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. And don't forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. Denny, do you have anything at all to say about Saints Panthers?
Yeah, a little bit.
Low on takeaways from this game, so hopefully you have some.
A little bit. First of all, if the Saints go into week 3 all banged up at running back, Jamal Williams had to leave the game. We're going to see about his practice participation this week. Tony Jones, who is inevitable apparently, served as the lead back, scored 2 touchdowns on a Jerome Bettis-like stat line. If that continues, I think that then Taysom Hill becomes a thing. He just does in this offense. Like they clearly paid him a lot of money. They're going to use him when they have to, and so we have to consider plugging him into the tight end spot if you can do that in your league.
I wasn't sure where you were going to go with this, and you went Taysom Hill, huh?
Well, I mean, I have stuff on Jonathan Mingo as well, if you're into that.
You went Taysom Hill, huh? Man, 9 carries for 75 yards.
9 carries.
I paid the price for channel surfing during this game, apparently.
Yes. I mean, you can kind of pencil him in for like 7 rushing attempts next week if Jamal Williams is out. I mean,
Jamal Williams is going to be out, by the way. Well, I don't know. No, it's David Montgomery the one. They're really, really weird. I'm mixing up my Jamal Williams rollbacks. Jamal Williams, it didn't seem very good. He got the downgrade. It's a short week. It's a soft tissue injury in the hamstring. But they could force the issue, though, because Kendre Miller was a healthy scratch. They clearly don't think he's ready. Tony Jones is Tony Jones. I would consider, with the short week and the hamstring, I would consider Jamal Williams very much on the wrong side of questionable.
Yeah, and so that makes Taysom interesting. It's very hard to predict Taysom's usage, except for in these circumstances. That's what I would like to say.
That's a good point. That's a good point about old Taysom. And yeah, I was going to ask you about the Panthers receivers. If anyone was catching your fancy, and it sounds like someone is.
Oh man, my fancy has been caught, I will say, by Jonathan Mingo, the rookie. 91% route rate through week 2. That leads the all Panthers pass catchers. He's seeing 45% of the air yards and leads the team with an 18.5% target share. The problem is that Bryce Young is extremely conservative, which was predictable. I mean, it's the size, the arm strength, the nature of the offense. 7% downfield passing rate for Bryce Young through 2 games. That ranks Pat 27th out of 30 qualifying quarterbacks.
Surprised it ranks that high. That's pretty huge indictment that it's not dead last.
Well, a bit, but it's the 2 high safety thing that crushes. Josh Allen is well below that, by the way. So, I mean, like Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, their whole existence is just throwing 4 yards past the line of scrimmage now, which is awesome for fans. That's fun. That's fun to watch. Is just check downs to tight ends for 3 hours a day on Sundays.
Yeah, we really want a Dawson Knox season after they use the first round pick on a tight end.
We love that's why I watch football. I want to see Dawson Knox catch a 3-yard pass and fall down. And I don't want anything downfield. I want 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I want real football.
Well, the thing is, if we were getting any real football, the downfield passing would immediately return because then defense would have to account for the run game. Teams refusing to run is why this is happening.
That's not it. It isn't it. Defenses are begging offenses to do that, to run 4 yards at a time. Go ahead, do that.
Yeah,
we'll take that all day. Okay. And that's what, and so who cares? 4 yards at a time. We'll take that. So the only way out of 2 high safety hell is a rule change for the NFL. And I'm begging the NFL to ban the 2 high safety look.
Or we're going to look very strongly into finding more Derrick Henrys. I'll just say that.
No.
We are.
Stop.
We are.
Stop. Look, they banned the shift. They banned the shift in baseball. That's a precedent. Okay, like we can do this. We can make the game more interesting by stopping the 2 safety hellscape that we're in.
You want to make football. I'm not going to finish that thought.
I mean, watchable is what I would say.
Make football watchable. I'm not going to say the final word though. All right, more. Come on. Come on. That's all right. Saquon injury. Denny Saquon Barkley, another fairly major injury, but of course we're getting really into the semantics with this major injury, which by all appearances is a high ankle sprain. You're not usually in tears being like helped off the field by 2 players for like a normal ankle roll. And now we're hearing that it's an ordinary high ankle sprain, or maybe it's just an ordinary sprain. Whatever it is, he's not playing in week 3 against the San Francisco 49ers on a short week on Thursday Night Football. Seems like he's going to miss multiple games, at least 2 or 3. This is another backfield or kind of like the Browns. It's a cut and replace type situation for Matt Breida. But we don't know. Gary Brightwell could maybe be involved. Rookie Eric Gray, who's been returning punts, could be involved. What do we tell people about the Saquon situation in the fall, especially since it begins with such a tough matchup in the San Francisco 49ers on a short week? A much less appealing plug-and-play spot for Matt Breida than it is for Jerome Ford.
Well, I will say the Giants are going to put on a brave face and say that Saquon's fine, and they're already saying this, okay? They're saying he's made a lot of progress. He has a good chance to suit up on Thursday. Brian Daboll said
there's no way in hell.
I know. No, I'm with you. But they're gonna pretend here, okay? And then they're gonna pretend because they have 11 days off after that, and all those 11 days it's gonna be Saquon's good. It's fine. He's fine. He's gonna play, and he's not gonna play. So
I fully agree with that.
Yeah. So you really do have to prepare yourself. He's not going to play this Thursday. He's not going to play the following week, and go from there. Breida is not. I don't think that there's any universe where he dominates this backfield, where suddenly, he takes 15, 18 carries a game here. Gary Brightwell will mix in. They have another running back whose name I can't remember.
It's Eric Gray. He's a 5th-round rookie. He's been on special teams so far. He has been active, so he's been up on Sundays.
So I think the Daniel Jones truthers and drafters, I think you found an out, and congratulations on that. Because you found out in that the Giants had to try to score points last week after falling down to the Cardinals. That's great. Now you have the team's best rusher is out. I think Daniel Jones, rushing opportunity is probably going to increase. That's great for his fantasy prospects. So I think actually the main takeaway here is that Daniel Jones becomes playable against the Niners.
It's just such a horrible, horrible matchup.
It is.
I do agree that Daniel Jones's legs gonna be maybe the only surefire weapon they have on Thursday night. And even if the passing game is getting totally locked down, we're gonna have to see some Daniel Jones. It's a good take from you, is what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not getting him in the top 12. I will never just get Daniel Jones into the top 12.
Yeah.
Neither will Daniel Jones. For that matter.
He won't. But okay. But real quick on Breida, it's not a Jerome Ford situation at all. As a 0 RB bro, I am not actually interested at all in Matt Breida.
It's much more of a Justice Hill type situation with
a
little more. We at least know Matt Breida will be leading whatever committee develops. I think we can safely say that it's probably going to be a committee. Matt Breida will be leading it. Justice Hill, we didn't even know if he'd be leading it, and then he really wasn't leading it in week 2. He was getting a lot of it, but he will be. If you're really, really in need of a running back, Matt Breida will be leading this committee, and you can hope for some receptions, maybe for some goal line carries. It's going to be pretty hard for the Giants to get to the goal line, I'll say, against the 49ers. This is going to be bad. What's the line on this game? I'm looking this up real quick.
8.5, I think.
Ooh, 10 points. Niners catching 10 points at home. The 45 total. Still not much of a projected team total for the Giants there. It could have been worse, I guess. And maybe
I don't know how, but
might get worse. Al Michaels. Since Al Michaels doesn't work for NBC anymore, we can joke about him. He is going to be falling asleep during this game. He's going to be very, very sleepy during this game.
I have to respect Al for still acting and speaking like gambling is not widely legal.
No, it's amazing. That is an amazing bit, and Al was still amazing. By the way,
I mean, Al still talks about the point spread, the total, the over, all of it as if it's 1988, and he's not allowed to say it explicitly. And I thank you, Al, for keeping that up.
It is amazing. Al, by the way, to his great credit, knows who all the players are. Kirk Herbstreit is still sometimes like, this Jahmyr Chase.
Yeah.
Well, the things he did for LSU, I think, might translate to the pros.
Yeah.
And then,
no, Al Michaels. Al Michaels is up on. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a little fantasy. Honestly,
there's no way.
No, a little DFS maybe. I don't know, but yeah,
Al Michaels DFS. Huh?
Kirk Herbstreit would do well to have one fantasy team.
He would. Herbie needs a fantasy team real bad. Herbie, thankfully, is a really good announcer, but he could know a little more about these NFL players. I would say. We could know a little more about Joe Burrow's health than he, because we don't know a whole lot. He aggravated the calf. They're being very cagey. This is a situation where I don't necessarily think cagey means out. I think the Bengals are just genuinely uncertain. They're also genuinely desperate after yet another 0-2 start. I could see them really pushing the envelope and getting Joe Burrow out there for next Monday night against the Rams. He does thankfully have an extra day to get healthy. But just a bad situation that did not need another variable of the quarterback now essentially playing on one leg. What do we tell people about this Bengals offense? Back-to-back 5-catch, 30-yard performances for Jahmyr Chase. You were down just horrific if Jahmyr Chase was your first-round pick. I'm down extremely bad in several leagues where I use like a 5th or 6th-round pick on Joe Burrow. What do we tell people? I don't even know what to tell people about this Bengals offense right now.
All right, so just from an actionable standpoint, okay, and that's that we try to do that occasionally between listening to ourselves talk. If Jake Browning starts for the Bengals this Monday, you listen, you're playing Puka Nacua over Jahmyr Chase.
Yeah, no, okay. I was about to scoff at that. I mean, I have Puka ranked wide receiver 11 right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, and you could do a lot better than Chase, I think. Also, if you're for some reason like desperate to start Joe Burrow this Monday, you're not going to know. You're not going to know till Monday, till inactives come out probably, or shortly before that. So I guess here my only advice here would be pick up Matthew Stafford off the waiver wire and then play him if Burrow doesn't go. That's your best shot there.
That's a really good idea. And unfortunately, the game is in Cincinnati. We would get an earlier clue if we're on the West Coast whether or not Joe Burrow made the road trip.
Yeah.
We're not going to get the road trip clue. Saturday, we will get an official question. He's probably just not going to practice, and he's going to get a questionable tag Saturday. It's going to be okay, we're still where we were at on Tuesday. It's going to be a major information vacuum. I think the fact that they're 0-2 and the fact that it's an injury that's just going to maybe be with him all year, I think he's probably just going to gut it out and play. And the effectiveness will be quite a question.
It's bad, man. It's bad. I mean, he was on the sideline using a little massage gun on his calf, and then seen like openly like cursing and like looking to the sky after the game. Like
it wasn't particularly good.
No, I think this is a major problem.
And maybe they should just give him off a game or two.
They should. They absolutely should.
They probably. I feel like they gave him so much time off, and it didn't even get better then. When is their bye? I'm looking this up real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they were to have it to do over again, they probably would have held him out at least opening day.
Their bye is in week 7. That's 4 games from now. No way he's getting shut down.
No.
So they should shut him down against the Rams and have him come back against the Titans. Although Jeffrey Simmons would probably like impale him if he's like immobile. I don't. There's no good options for the Bengals basically.
No, it seems that way.
No good. So we had a little actionable. Jake Browning, by the way, I will rank ahead of Zach Wilson. Like not a bit, not a joke. I will. Any living, breathing quarterback who starts, I will continue to rank ahead of Zach Wilson.
Yeah, you gotta
do it, and you gotta listen to this promo. We'll be right back after this. Now that the NFL season is in full swing, we've got you covered. In addition to our 3 shows a week of the Rotoworld Football Show, check out the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry and Bet the Edge every weekday. You can watch the Happy Hour at noon and 4 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. It's also available on the NFL and NBC Sports YouTube page. And Bet the Edge drops Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. on our NBC Sports YouTube page. Both shows are also available wherever you listen to podcasts. Booyah Kasha, Denny Carter. I say that unironically. Anthony Richardson.
Real quick.
Denny?
Yeah. Real quick. My Orioles clinched a playoff spot. Let's go.
They did. No thanks to the Cardinals, who took 2 or 3 in Baltimore last week.
Yeah, I know. How dare you? First of all.
And shouts to Adam Wainwright on career victory number 200 Monday evening. Adam Wainwright is a fantasy football sicko, by the way.
Yeah, cool.
Fantasy football, true sicko. So
didn't they dedicate their entire season to getting him that win?
They did. It became a Mike Evans situation where once it was clear the year was done in like May, the only goal came to get him 200 wins, and he was only 5 away to begin the year. He would normally have like 9 or 10 wins by the All-Star break, but he was real bad this year. And we, being the St. Louis Cardinals, were real bad this year, Denny. And it became the Mike Evans pursuit of 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he got there with 2 starts to spare. So St. Louis is breathing easy today, Denny Carter.
Well, there you go.
Anthony Richardson, as I feel like maybe somewhat cornily in my article. Is that even a word?
Cornily?
Cornily?
That's funny.
Hokily? I don't know. So we saw the promise and the peril of his playing style on Sunday, where 2 rushing touchdowns in the first 5 minutes. And when we say rushing touchdowns, we mean like real deal rushing touchdowns. This wasn't him being like pushed by his lineman. It wasn't him like diving over the top and barely breaking the plane with the football. It was a 15-yard touchdown, an 18-yard touchdown, special stuff, like rarefied air, dual threat skill set. Then we saw the risk when you play that kind of style. Concussion 1 week after he banged his knee and just already taking hits, basically. And I just don't know. It almost guaranteed, I feel like the Colts are going to throttle off this when he comes back, at least for a few games, just to try to keep him out there, let him develop, and like almost not even worried about winning whatever those few games are. And basically just try to string together some healthy performances for maybe unleashing him the way he was in weeks 1 or 2. What are your thoughts on Anthony Richardson?
Yeah,
mixed start.
I saw Shane Steichen say that Richardson, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he needs to get accustomed to the speed of the game, and that's not something that has happened yet. And I think you can kind of see it because Richardson is taking some hits. Like in week 1, I covered that game for us, and he was walloped a few times where he could have easily avoided those hits. I don't really think that the speed of defenders has registered with Anthony Richardson yet. Hopefully that happens. But really, like, I see what you're saying with the throttling off. I don't see him being able to do that in this offense. And it's just like we talk about with Josh Allen. Like you can say all you want about, well, Josh Allen needs to run less. Josh Allen's still going to run. He's still going to helicopter over 3 defenders for no reason, like on like second and short. Okay. So I don't think you can take that out of his game. Hopefully he doesn't, miss too much time with this brain injury. I wouldn't be shocked if he sat 1 game though.
I feel like he's probably going to sit 1 game for sure. Kind of just a reset. Maybe as much about the knee injury as the head injury. And the knee injury did not end up being a concern. But I thought he took like a headshot in week 1 even. And at first I was worried that maybe it was like a lingering effect from week 1. And it wasn't. CBS ended up finding the shot. It was one of those awful things where his head like hit off the turf like it was a basketball.
And it was after after the play. I mean, it was the touchdown had been scored. He was falling backwards. The defender, and I'm not blaming the defender, but the defender just yanked him down at the last second and slammed his head. I guess it's just one of those unavoidable things, but really, really unfortunate. I mean, just from a football fan standpoint, I think we were going to see something special against the Texans.
They're playing the Ravens this week. I know we were going to see something special. The Colts, they're 8-point dogs. The game is in Baltimore. I think, the Colts don't really have Vegas's respect, but 8 points kind of feels like Las Vegas not expecting Anthony Richardson to play to me. Is that a good take, or is that actually a horrible take? I don't really know that much about gambling.
Well, someone who is good at the economy, tell me what to bet here. No, I actually I think 8 would be with Richardson.
No, producer Adam says that sounds like a without Richardson line.
Okay.
So never.
I'll go with that. I'll go with producer Adam.
Never owned. You're never ever owned. 8 does seem. I think with Richardson it'd be more like 5.5. I don't know. That's not that common of a line. Maybe 4.5. But 8 seemed very, very high. It seemed like a Gardner Minshew line. Let's put it that way. So I think they need to give him a game too. They need to kind of just give him a reset after back-to-back injury scares, and not a scare, like a real deal concussion. Very unfortunate. Denny, Puka Nacua, your most right take in a summer of running pure. Denny Carter, right about everything. Very wrong about our magazine cover guy, Tony Pollard. You were
I was
horrifically wrong about that. Right, I think literally everything else, including being all in on Puka Nacua. You talked about him all summer. We made fun of you. 20 targets, 35 targets through 2 games. At least 15 targets in both games. It'd be one thing if it was like 24 targets in like 11. The other game, it was at least 15 targets in back-to-back games. I mean, at least 2 more games without Cooper Kupp. Speaking of at leasts, we have to get him into the top 12, right? Again, you never try to overreact, but 15 targets merited a reaction in week 1. We got him into the top 24. At least I did. Back-to-back 15-target games. You react very strongly to that, and I'm reacting by putting him in the top 12.
Look, it's a real deal. Like I do appreciate the coping that's going on in the fantasy space, where it's like, oh, Puka Nacua, it's a funny name. This guy can't be real. And like, oh, other bad players have had good games, but come on, let's be real about what's happening. Okay, he has 35 targets in 2 games. That doesn't happen. It does not happen. So, like you said in your column, the Sunday
aftermath.
Aftermath. I always want to say recap.
Yeah. The Sunday. It is a recap. It's very much a recap.
Like you said in that column, again, the important thing is I read it. This has become now probably a problem for Cooper Kupp. Like, that's where we are. We're not talking about, oh, can he keep it up? We're talking about he will keep it up, to the extent that, hey, if you drafted Cooper Kupp thinking he was going to see 20 targets a game, it's not happening. It's just simply not going to happen. I mean, Nacua is the real deal. You gotta start him. Like, no matter your format, 10-team format, you still need to find a way to start him. I was actually looking for a stat here real quick, and that's what you do on
you filibuster until you find the stat.
But yeah, so Puka Nacua has more first read targets than anyone in the NFL. This is something you can't dismiss that. So it's real and it's happening.
I think it goes without saying that once Cooper Kupp is back, of course the target share will go way down. Like you said, I said in the article, we all already know that. We're not breaking news by saying Puka Nacua is not going to get 20 targets a game when Cooper Kupp is back. But I think some people might be in denial about what it will mean for Cooper Kupp, which, like you said, what I wrote, like, Cooper Kupp is not the player you drafted anymore. I just don't think there's any way he's the player you drafted anymore. And like, even expecting like 10 to 12 targets per game for Cooper Kupp might be a little rich. And it's going to be more like that 8 to 10 range, which is still going to be solid wide receiver 2 usage. I think they both might end up more like wide receiver 2s, or they might alternate wide receiver 1 weeks. Or maybe Cooper Kupp's is that much better, and it will be silly. But so we know that Puka can't keep it up to quite this extent when Cooper Kupp's back. But I think we have to acknowledge we're living in a different Cooper Kupp world. And that is like the big takeaway from the Puka explosion to me.
Yeah, and Nacua is playing on the outside primarily. So it's not like he's going to have to like rotate in the slot with Cooper Kupp, who, again, primarily plays from the slot. I mean, they can coexist. This Rams offense has been very aggressive, very pass first. It's something you'd just love to see. Also, there's this. Matthew Stafford is a statue. He's not going to take away any pass attempts. No targets will be stripped from these receivers because Stafford decides that he can take off and do it on his own.
Yeah, it's a good. And by the way, there was almost no way heading into week 1 that Tyler Higbee could botch it this time.
Wow.
And
wow.
Like, even for Tyler Higbee, someone becoming the most targeted wide receiver in the history of the NFL, and the Rams would rather make Puka Nacua the most targeted receiver in the history of the NFL than target Tyler Higbee once.
It's incredible. Yeah, Higbee can be dropped. He's not even a streamer anymore. It's Jover. It's Jover. It's
been Jover for him for 3 or 4 years, but just new and exciting ways for Tyler Higbee to not get home as a plug and play streamer. Jahmyr Gibbs, Denny, the role did increase in week 2. Still not as much as we like to see. Did increase big time in the passing game, in tangible ways too, in terms of targets, in terms of catches. It wasn't just routes. He ran. So many times we're like, I know he had 0 catches or 0 targets, but he ran 14 routes, and that's really cool. And then the next week, listen, the routes stay. I know he had another donut, but the routes are really good.
We call that the Kyle Pitts cope.
Exactly. Jahmyr Gibbs in tangible ways, receptions, targets. It seems like David Montgomery is going to be out with a horrible thigh bruise, which again, I've already said this in the podcast this week, but when we talk about a bruise for a football player, this is not a normal human bruise. This is David Montgomery's entire thigh is probably just covered in black and blue. And we're getting mixed signals, but he's probably not going to play this week. What were you going to say, Denny?
Yeah, it's the kind of bruise where if I had that bruise, I would very kindly ask the doctors to amputate my leg.
I'll say you honestly would probably be in a wheelchair or at least on crutches.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you say it's a bruise for David Montgomery, like, oh, he's going to play through a bruise. He's probably not going to play through this bruise. But we also don't know. Keep it locked to rotoworld.com for updates on David Montgomery and every injured player this week. But what do we think about the possibility of Jahmyr Gibbs without David Montgomery? Because we saw Craig Reynolds still mixed in fairly heavily after David Montgomery went down in week 2. How excited can we get about Jahmyr Gibbs without David Montgomery in the lineup?
Should mention that Trey Sermon was signed to the Colts practice squad. Could be wait. I'm sorry. The Colts. It's the Colts, not the Lions.
The Lions made a move.
Lions made a move. Zonovan Knight.
Bam Knight. Trey Sermon was the Colts move. Bam Knight, not just the practice squad, to the active roster for the Detroit
Got those
Lions.
transactions mixed up. So Bam Knight is on the active roster. Whatever. We know that Montgomery's probably going to miss this week. Here's the thing about Gibbs. I know we just poo-pooed usage, but I'm going to go with what I have with usage wise. In week 1, Gibbs ran a route on only 19% of the team's dropbacks, which is really not great. 2 targets against the Seahawks in week 2. Gibbs ran a route on 57% of the dropbacks. That's a huge reason why he saw 9 targets, caught 7 of them. Forget about the Craig Reynolds stuff. I mean, Craig Reynolds is going to mix in. He's going to get a lot of between the 20 stuff. That's fine. We'll take that. I think Gibbs is a starting player in 12-team leagues because of that pass game usage. One thing, though, it would be cool if Gibbs got any action inside the 10-yard line, because so far they have very willfully made sure that he's not on the field near the goal line.
I think Gibbs, I might go all in and project kind of like old-timey DeAndre Swift usage, not what we saw with the Eagles where he's getting 30 carries, but old-timey where it's like 16 to 20 touches, but they're all pretty high value. I think I might have Gibbs in the top 12, just to be honest, this week.
I think
part of that is because running back is a fallout zone. It's real crazy after like the top 9 or 10 where the situation is seriously just messed up at running back. I'm going through this. I don't even know what to think about any of this stuff. Zach Moss is in the top 20. It's like Isaiah Pacheco's barely usable. Like, what even is going on at this position, man? Like, what is any of it? Raheem Mostert I have in the top 20. Kyron Williams is like pushing for RB1 value. We used to be a country.
Yeah, we used to be people who drafted running backs early, and now look at us.
And then Najee Harris can't even get in the top 24.
How could you?
Yeah, it's true. How could you? I don't know. I feel like the show shouldn't be over yet. Do you have any final thoughts on anything? Anything you need to get off your chest? How are the regression files going?
Oh, yes. Regression files are thick this week. You know, we have a lot of files to share. 3,000 words worth of regression files. And so that'll be on the site on Wednesday, looking at all positions, who is, running way too hot, who is running way too cold, what to do with them in redraft, and, little DFS angle as well. So check that out. Regression files. It'll be up Wednesday morning.
Who's someone running really cold that's going to bounce back in week 3?
That's a good question. Let me look at my regression files. Let's see. Oh, AJ Brown.
Yeah.
AJ Brown for sure. Also, Michael Pittman is kind of running cold when you take into account his usage. I don't know if it's just him, it's the offense or whatever, but like if his usage keeps up at this clip, no matter who's at quarterback, it's going to be really good for Pittman. I am catastrophically wrong. We talked about me running pure. I'm catastrophically wrong on Pollard and Pittman, because Pittman could be like a top 15 receiver if this keeps up. And I know week 2 was like 56 yards, whatever. You're not writing home about it, but just, keep the faith on Pittman.
I do think that's maybe going to be the Achilles heel for Pittman is he's not good. He's good at getting targets, which, as we know, is a skill. He's never really done a whole lot with the targets, and he seems like he's doing less as his career goes on instead of more.
Well, that was never part of my calculus, his skill set.
Someone who's good at the economy does need to tell us if Michael Pittman is good. Man, back-to-back years, including this year, of being under 10 yards per catch. That is really hard to do at wide receiver. Like, really, and a lot of it's how they are using him, of course, and it's kind of like the extension of the running game nonsense type targets. But man, I'd like to see some explosiveness whatsoever.
No, you're not going to get any of that. No, that's not happening. But it's okay. Look, this Colts defense is really bad. That could end up being really significant for Richardson, for Pittman, and for eventually maybe Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, CJ Stroud dropped almost 400 on this Colts defense, as Denny just referenced. So we'll be back to preview the Colts. We'll be back to preview the Texans on Thursday. We'll be previewing every team in the league as we get fantasy managers ready for week 3, doing all sorts of stuff on the site. Denny's regression files. My rankings will be coming out. Kyle's waiver wired is out. 2 or 3 articles every day from our entire staff. Really, really good stuff. Keep it locked, of course, to the news feed. Big injury week. For Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thanks for listening. We will be back later.